This week on Phil's Tax Hacks and Other Retirement Facts, we're going to do a little reaction to some comments from listeners and viewers to a different YouTube channel. So let's dive in and tackle that. Welcome into Phil's Tax Hacks and Other Retirement Facts with CPA and personal financial specialist Phil Putney. Now let's get rolling with today's show. Hey everybody, welcome into the podcast. Thanks for hanging out with Phil and I as we talk investing, finance, and retirement. Phil, I'm not sure if we've done a React video before.
Nope.
So
I don't think so.
Why not?
So.
Like, it's the trend on YouTube. Right. Been there for a while. Yeah. I've watched many myself in different kinds of genres. So we'll kind of do one here in the financial genre. There's a great channel out there. And I know that, we subscribe to different YouTube channels as well, because it's always, useful to get good information from other good sources. Aaron Talks Money is a very cool channel. So go check that out if you guys haven't done so. But there's some comments there, they get put on the channel to different videos and stuff that are there. So I thought, well, it'd be interesting to kind of take a look at some of these. We got a couple screenshots here and just kind of get your take on that as well, right? So kind of more of the take on the comment really than the video, right?
Than the video,
yeah,
sure.
So we'll pull this first one up here. We'll just dive in and kind of break it down a little bit. So this first one is on Social Security timing. So what's your take to this here? I'll read it out. Folks can check it out. We took Social Security, the person says, at 62 to prevent a sequence of returns risk. Social Security covers all of our expenses, and we have a substantial 401k. I retired in 2021, and it worked out perfectly as the market tanked right after, and we didn't touch our 401k. So this comes back to that conversation of which horse are you riding? The one that you built or the one that you're getting back from the government, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, there's so many pieces that have to go into that decision. I mean, and this can be one of them. A couple of factors that I would say you got to look at here that might have been missed. Number one is, with Social Security taking it early like that, I mean, you're locking in the lowest benefit you're ever going to get.
That's a guaranteed haircut. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's, for the rest of your life. It's never going to get bigger other than cost of living, right? And everyone gets cost of living. It's the same percentage for everyone.
Right.
But just mathematically how it works, the bigger the number, cost of living as you add it, because it gets compounded, grows quicker, right? So, it comes down to having a plan at the end of the day, right? So hopefully you've run the numbers on this and you didn't just take Social Security at 62 because, it's going to help with sequence of returns, which it can. You're not spending from your 401k.
Right.
But there's many other avenues to help with sequence of returns.
Well,
I mean, you can just reposition a portion of that 401k in a more conservative strategy to spend from, so you're not having to deal with sequence of returns or have it affect your distribution. So there's a lot of avenues that you have to look at. So,
well, let me break down a couple things for you here and just kind of get your take on it. So the person says we have a substantial 401k, right? So that's already in an account that you don't own completely, right? So
well, that's the other aspect that hasn't been considered in all of this is the whole tax piece of it.
Right. So that my first thought was, okay, just kind of looking this over, you're locking in the 30% haircut by taking Social Security early. And we'll stick with the $1 million because it's easy to do. Let's just say the person, since they said substantial, let's just assume they have $1 million 401k. Well, really, you've got more like a $700,000 401k. Right. So if in running those numbers, which one are you giving up, right? Like which one, like have you done the math? Did the person do on the math on that? Secondly, they also say, well, the market tanked right after. It did go down in 22. Absolutely. Was not prolonged though.
Right. It was a reaction to interest rates, and it eventually came back within a short period of time. And since then it's been fine. So, yeah, I mean, to me, in that opportunity, I mean, you might have missed some chance to do Roth conversions. I mean, there's a lot of factors that come into play.
Yeah.
So that's why I was saying, hopefully you had a plan as to why you took Social Security. You're working with an advisor. You didn't just maybe react or talk to other retirees that, I'm going to take Social Security early because, it's going broke anyway. So I might as well get my money, or whatever the decision was.
And it sounds like it worked out for this person. So not knocking them. We're just kind of giving, counterpoint to it. And maybe the decision fell to the fact that when they did back of the napkin, Social Security covers all of our expenses. Maybe that made it seem like it made sense for them. Right. But I think there's get the data completely. Like, don't just do the back of the napkin. Don't just, kind of do part of it. Make sure you run the complete data and see how effective and efficient you're being with that. So,
Yeah, you always have to look at that long-term picture too. Today in this very moment, it might seem like this makes sense, but when you're planning for retirement, you have to map this out for the length of retirement just to see, well, how does this decision that I've made today look 5, 10, 15 years down the road?
Yeah.
One factor in that I don't know if you considered is that by taking that benefit early, you've now taken not only a haircut for you, but potentially now for that surviving spouse.
Great point.
Because it's the lowest benefit it's ever going to be. So when either spouse passes, then it's that lower benefit that passes on to a surviving spouse.
Great point. Yeah, that's a fantastic point, right? So you got to maximize that spousal strategy as well. So, all right, that was the first one. Let's do the next one here. This one's around healthcare costs. Sure. Before Medicare age, right? So besides underestimating healthcare costs, the person says, a lot of people also underestimate their ability to pay for healthcare costs before turning on Medicare, right? Especially higher earners. $2,000 per month for two people for us with some level of employer retired subsidy. So I'm assuming that means that's what they're getting. I budgeted for it many years ago and am sucking it up for 7 years until I get to Medicare. Obviously, they go on to say some more stuff, which we don't have. But that's a huge piece, right? So it's like, how are you funding the gap if there is a gap?
Yeah, and this is always part of the discussion for those that are retiring prior to 65, because this is can be a significant cost. I mean, they're talking about $2,000 a month for a married couple, not uncommon. In the reality is it probably isn't great coverage. There's if there is some kind of medical event, there could be a substantial out of pocket that has to be paid as well. Mm-hmm. It's just the health system we live in today, right? So if you're planning on retiring early, make sure you've had this discussion with an advisor to really map this out to see what it looks like.
Yeah.
You might have COBRA for, it's 18 months, so it's not going to be a long period of time, and used to be back in the day that COBRA, well, that was like the worst option. You only took that at the last resort if you had to.
Right.
Unfortunately, today, a lot of times that's going to be one of your better options from a cost and a coverage standpoint. So
that's wild.
Yeah. Bottom line, though, is that healthcare prior to age 65 can be very expensive, especially if you've got a higher level of earnings, because now you can't rely on getting this subsidy to help pay for it. So
yeah, and pre-existing conditions can play into it if there's any kind of changes that you're trying to have happen, or whatever. So there's a ton of factors in there, and this is a very real common concern and struggle for people to deal with. So again, strategizing that out, especially if you are thinking about or looking at early retirement, can certainly go a long way into paying for that. The next one, Phil, I want to talk about is also it's a very real thing for folks to deal with. Mm-hmm. And that's the psychology of money, right? So check this out. So person says, I fear in retirement that my wife will be so afraid of spending any money because we're not working anymore. She's very frugal now, and without a paycheck coming in, I fear she's going to become even more so. Right now, we are investing about $130,000 a year off of our $180,000 a year take home. So they're living off about $50,000, right? Right. She's afraid to spend money now. And so he's concerned that she'll get even tighter in retirement. And this is a super common fear for folks. We talked about this on last week's episode a little bit, that first year dues, right? Have that strategy and that withdrawal strategy in place and see some consistency to maybe help these spending fears.
Yeah, I mean, it's, working with an advisor is going to help in this, because we can help map it out to show you, here's the numbers. This is black and white, right? Even with a conservative rate of return, whatever it is, so you can start to visualize it. But I mean, at the end of the day, and this is pretty typical, where you're going to have one spouse that is maybe more conservative on the spending than the other, which is great. It helps balance out.
Sure.
But at the end of the day, you want to enjoy retirement too, so hopefully working with an advisor can help that other spouse overcome some of those fears, or at least be a little bit more confident. Right. In those first few years of retirement might be a little bit more stressful because you don't have that regular monthly income, and you're not going to be saving $130,000 a year. But what's the point? You've been saving for retirement, So when you get to retirement, you shouldn't be saving anymore necessarily. It's your money already.
Correct. Right.
So there's no reason to take it out if you're not going to spend it. Just leave it where it's at.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I mean, it comes down to knowing this is what we can spend. Does the plan work? And then having the discussion of, okay, well, this is, you've got X amount of assets that you've accumulated. You're spending $50,000 a year. Well, very likely a big piece of that, if not all of that, probably is going to be covered by Social Security anyways.
Yeah.
So what are you going to do with all this money you've accumulated? Did you just accumulate it to pass on to the kids? And sometimes that it takes part of that discussion to really help bring some comfort. It's like, well, no, it's not. It's my money. I want to spend it. Well, what's the plan then? Let's spend it.
The Tax Smart Retiree is your comprehensive guide to mastering tax efficiency for a flourishing retirement. You will find indispensable advice and actionable strategies designed to enhance tax savings, maximize Social Security benefits, protect against market volatility, and develop a customized retirement plan. To get your free ebook, click the link in the show notes of today's episode and download your copy of the Tax Smart Retiree right now.
Yeah, I mean, if you don't fly first class, your kids will. Your friends might too, but yeah, right. But that's a great saying for that. And look, I mean, maybe you do, and again, that's part of the strategy conversation too, because oftentimes the spouses maybe have a disagreement about, one wants to leave a lot to the kids, one doesn't, so you got to get on the same page about all these things. But certainly the spending fear is real. I get it, right? You first get to retirement, you're thinking, man, we got to be careful, especially in a down market or when inflation's really high. Like, all that stuff is certainly understandable. Having that strategy, Phil, to your point, seeing it in black and white, and watching it happen, for a couple of months, maybe in that first year of retirement, will hopefully start to alleviate those concerns. So hopefully this person's comment will get better for him as time goes on. All right, let's do our next one here. This is a good one. I like this. There are more and more of us single, and that needs to be addressed. Not everyone is married. Great point, because let me ask you this way. Is it tougher to plan for a single person in retirement than it is for a married person?
I wouldn't say it's tougher. I mean, there's not as many factors to consider. Social Security is one of them, right? So you don't have to worry about this whole concept of surviving spouse and what that looks like, right? So, I mean, in that case, it's more just about your life expectancy and, then how does that Social Security benefit play out in your retirement plan?
Is there more benefits or deductions or anything for singles or for married, I mean?
Yeah, well, I mean, married, the brackets are wider, so you don't get into a higher bracket as quick. Standard deductions twice. I mean, from a tax standpoint, with similar income, you're going to pay much less tax as married. Because at the end of the day, I mean, there's a base level, whether it's single or married, that people need, right? Just to live. It doesn't matter if you're married or not. You need X amount to live. And, then having another person in the household being married, well, yeah, that adds additional expenses. But for that base level, a single person typically is going to end up being in a higher bracket. It's going to cost them more. So, yeah, I mean, it's definitely a different scenario. I mean, another consideration, too, in a single, and I don't know their scenario, if they've been single all their life, if they have kids or not. I mean, that's another factor that plays in. Married. And again, not that every married couple has kids, but often if you're married, you've got kids. Then there's the whole discussion of, do you want to leave money to the kids? And what does that look like? Versus if it's single, it's like, hey, it's just you've accumulated, spend it.
Yeah.
Who are you going to save it for?
Yeah.
Unless there is that, maybe a sibling or a special cause that you're wanting to leave some money to. So,
okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, definitely differences in married versus single, but yeah. And something that we definitely plan for and talk about in our classes even is the differences.
Sure.
So,
yeah. Yep. I just like, not everyone's married. We need help too. Right. So, I mean,
I get it. I mean, a lot of times it's always talking about, married couples because, I mean, the reality is statistically there are more married than single.
Yeah.
So,
especially at retirement age. Yeah.
At retirement age. Yep.
Yeah. So, all right. But then again, there's also a lot of gray divorces. It's a high number and people passing away. And so you may not want to remarry. So great point. And but I think, again, if you're single and trying to do it on your own, maybe getting that professional help could help you kind of find some areas you're not used to looking for that could help you out along the way. All right, let's do the last one here, Phil, which is criticism around the industry, so to speak. The scary part is giving an advisor 1% of your hard-earned money for something you can learn on your own. Now, we could do an entire show on just this comment alone, but let me give you a couple points, and then I'll let you tackle them how you want.
Sure.
All right, something you can learn on your own. A, do you really want to do that in retirement?
Oh, right. Yeah.
Right. That's the first piece. Second piece, does your spouse want to take that over should you pass away because you were doing that? Right. So there's two questions I would ask. And then thirdly, is 1% really that high if you can get value for what you're spending? Because Phil, you and I talk about it all the time. You're handy. I'm fairly handy, but I don't want to fix everything on my property that needs to be fixed because sometimes I just got other stuff to do. And I'd rather have someone do it who knows better, who knows more than I do.
Right. Yeah. And so focusing on the dollar, the percent is common, and usually where that gets focused is from the fund families that are, indexed only, right? Very low fees, all low fees, right? So when you say do it on your own, there's many aspects to retirement, the investment side of it. Well, yeah, maybe you can do that on your own, but again, it comes down to, is that something you really want to do? And if you're married and you do, does your spouse want to do it?
Right.
Are you setting up them for success if you're, eventually pass away? What does that look like?
Right.
And at the end of the day, the 1%, I mean, the value an advisor can provide should well outweigh what you're getting from or what you're paying for that 1%. Mm-hmm. Not necessarily from market performance. I mean, you can't look at just market performance because there's many, many other factors that goes into retirement. Just having a plan and strategizing all these pieces together. When are you going to file for Social Security? What options do you take on your pension if you have one? Have you looked at taxes and have you run the math out on that long term and have a strategy to minimize your taxes? I mean, there's all these different factors that come into play. One that isn't even dollars and cents is just the emotional side of it, because looking at various studies on what investors have done, or put it this way, the improvement that an advisor can bring to a portfolio on different things. The emotional aspect of it brings the most improvement. It's high as
behavioral management. You're talking about behavioral management,
behavioral management,
yeah.
Right? So holding your hand, so to speak, through those rough times, the volatility in the market, and saying,
well, Phil, to that point.
Don't make a change. We've got a plan. We built this out.
To that point, as a DIYer talking, this kind of stance here, Vanguard, which is one of the cheapest options out there for DIYers, even says, they even do their annual or biannual or whatever it is, their report they do, and it says advisors can bring, about around 3+% or whatever, as well as the behavioral management piece. That alone, can carry a lot of weight. And I don't know about you, Phil, but I think, just from a tax efficiency standpoint, being a CPA like you are, that alone should be able to say, hey, look, I can pay my way.
Yeah. I mean, the tax efficiency piece of it more than covers, for most people, any advisory fee. So and that's what I always say with any decision financially, you have to look beyond the dollar, right? The dollar matters, but that's only if it's an apples to apples. If I'm looking at two index funds that I'm not getting any advice on, well, then it really matters because it's the same thing, but if I'm comparing, I'm managing it on my own using an index fund versus I've got an advisor that's, charging maybe 1% for an overall strategy and plan and the investment management, which is a piece of the overall strategy. Well, then that's not apples and apples because you're not getting all the strategizing and planning from the index fund strategies. So you're doing it on your own.
Yeah, exactly. And then, there's about 42 other components that you're not factoring in there. So.
We, like you said, we could do a whole show on just that to kind of map out really, hey, this is the value that you get that sometimes people don't think of when you look at working with an advisor. Why should I do that versus just quote unquote do it on my own?
Well, and that's the key word. Are you getting value? Are you getting good value for the money that you're spending in any person you hire to do anything for you?
Yeah, it's with anything. It's just
are you getting good value? Right, exactly. So look, at the end of the day, YouTube comments, can spark good conversation. They can spark controversy, right? But either way, it's like you got to have these conversations for yourself to see. And that's why so many advisors, offer complimentary consultations and reviews. They go through the first couple parts of the plan setup to go, hey, look, are we the right fit for you? Right? Does X, Y, and Z line up with your philosophy and so on and so forth, and your wallet, right? So get yourself on the calendar, have a conversation, sit down with Phil, and or a qualified advisor in your area, whatever it is that you need to do. But sit down and certainly reach out to somebody. And if you need some help, Phil is here. So just check the show links below. Get yourself some time onto the calendar. Don't forget to subscribe to us on Apple, Spotify, and of course here on YouTube. Thumbs up, notification bell so you catch new episodes, all that good stuff. Helps the channel out, and of course, hopefully gets you some more content. Phil, this was show number 299, my friend. So
299, approaching to 300.
I know. So first one of October. I guess we'll have to think of something here. We'll see what we do for that. But have yourself a great week.
All right, you too.
We'll catch you next time here on Phil's Tax Hacks and Other Retirement Facts.
Phil?
Investment advisory services offered through AFS Wealth Management. The content of this program is provided for informational purposes only and is not a solicitation or recommendation of any investment strategy. Investments and/or investment strategies involve risk, including the possible loss of principal. There is no assurance that any investment strategy will achieve its objectives.